So the MediaTek Dimensity 9300 in the Vivo X100 is apparently the chipset to beat, as this all-big core CPU has 40% faster CPU and 46% increased GPU, and it has hardware-level ray tracing, generative AI, and on top of all of that, apparently a great battery life too. Really? Let's find out. Now, MediaTek, in case you do not know, is the world's 5th largest global fabless semiconductor company. They took the world by storm when their MediaTek 9200 Plus topped the charts last year. Now, since then, other companies released new chips, and since then, MediaTek dropped a bit. But now, in year 2024, they are back with a bang to claim the Iron Throne. So what kind of technological advancement has come with their latest processor? Now they got this cool all-big core CPU, which increases its performance by 40%. It's an octa-core CPU, but not the usual kind of efficiency cores. Instead, it has 8 high-power cores, 4 Cortex-X4 and 4 Cortex-A720. Now you may think that all of that power means a very drained battery, right? But no, here is the twist. Because it's actually designed to use up to 33% less power thanks to its new TSMC 4nm architecture. Pretty impressive, MediaTek. But what about the GPU? You know, the heart of gaming performance? Well, the ARM or ARM Immortalis G720 in this chip is a beast with 12 cores. Now that is more than I count with my 2 fingers. What? Or 2 hands. I probably need my toes too. So is ARM or ARM's newest and most advanced GPU. Not only it does offer a whopping 46% better performance, but also 40% more efficient according to their tests. That, my friends, is some serious gaming power. Then there are some cool features on this chip too. It has an APU 790 architecture, which includes a hardware generative AI engine that is 8 times faster than a transformer-based AI. And then there's a massive 18MB L3 plus SLC cache that is 20% bigger than the last generation. But you know what I've said before, that is all on paper, so let's put that to the test. Now let's test this chip in 3 big benchmark tests that everyone in the industry uses: Antutu, Geekbench and 3DMark. And I did not did this test just once, I did it 3 times, and then I averaged the scores to get a fair picture, and let's see how it did. Now for Geekbench 6, the results are as follows. Then as for Antutu, the averages of runs are here. And as for 3DMark, the averages are here. And just to give you an idea of how the MediaTek Dimensity 9300 stacks up, let's look at the Geekbench scores. Now the top dog there is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which scores just under 1900 points in single core tests. Now hold on to your hats, because the MediaTek 9300 scores 2231, which is 17% faster, and in multi-core tests, the Snapdragon is at 5000 points, but the MediaTek zooms in ahead with 7460 points, a whooping 49% faster. Now that is just not a small win, that is a huge leap. Then moving on to Antutu, the results were pretty cool because this Vivo X100 with the MediaTek chip beats between 85 to 96% of other devices. The Antutu checks everything: CPU, GPU, memory, and even user interface performance. Then as for 3DMark, this device is leaving about 92% of other devices in the dust. That is bonkers, mate. Did my accent just change? But wait, there is the Snapdragon Gen 3 to consider, right? So how does MediaTek chipset compare to that? Well, if you peek at mobile comparison sites like nanoreview.net, you'll see that the MediaTek Dimensity 9300 is still topping the charts, beating all other mobile processors available as of the making of this video. So yes, on synthetic benchmarks, the MediaTek Dimensity 9300 is a killer flagship CPU. But not everyone, including myself, feels that synthetic benchmarks are a true indicator for real-life performance, especially for gaming. Because if you look at the definition of synthetic, that literally means imitation. Well, luckily I had a bit more time on this device and it has been a very good experience. Now before I go into the gaming test, this is probably one of the best mobile gaming smartphones that I've used so far, but let's recap on the device. So this Vivo X100 has 3 standout features. First, there's the star of the show, the flagship MediaTek Dimensity 9300 chipset. Next up is the camera module, because this is hard to miss, right? as it's almost as big as some mirrorless camera lenses. And lastly is the fast charging, because this phone has a super-sized battery that charges up in no time. So these are the three features that really sets the Vivo X100 apart. So the Vivo X100 has a powerful camera trio, a 50 megapixel main camera, a 50 megapixel ultra-wide and a 64 megapixel 3x periscope lens, all fine-tuned with Zeiss. Now, in case you didn't know that Zeiss is a world-leading optic manufacturer and they have an exclusive collaboration with Vivo for the imaging system. Now, this means features like the Zeiss optics with T-coating, Zeiss multifocal portrait, Zeiss style portrait and Zeiss B-speed style bokeh all are in the Vivo X100 series. Now, the phone that I have is the X100, the non-Pro model. So the Zeiss 1-inch main camera, the Zeiss APO floating telephoto camera and the V3 chip of the Pro model is not present, but it still delivers top-notch performance. Whereas you can see in these pictures, the dynamic range is a standout with pictures taken with the main camera striking a perfect balance between natural and vibrant colors. Then of course the Zeiss portrait shots are the highlight, with sharp focus and beautifully rendered bokeh effects around the subject, where I can switch between 24, 35, 50, 85 and 100 mm for the portrait shots, and you can see the different vibe and effect which each photo composition gives. Now, another cool feature that really surprised me is the sunshot photography. It makes sunrise and sunset photos emotionally captivating, adding special touch to these moments. Yeah, don't I sound like Shakespeare after taking the shots?
You serious?
Then on the video front, the main camera can record up to 4K 60 FPS. The stabilization is gimbal-like and very impressive, a common strength on Vivo phones. But all in all, the photo capabilities is what really shines on the phone. Now, battery-wise, the Vivo X100 comes with a 5000 mAh of a Blue Volt battery, supporting rapid 120 watts charging, getting you from 0 to full in just half an hour. And for those of you who are curious, the Pro model has a larger 5400 mAh of battery, but charges a tad bit slower at 100 watts. Then the other specs include 16GB plus 16GB of LPDDR5X memory, 512GB of UFS 4.0 storage, a 6.78-inch AMOLED FHD Plus screen with up to 120Hz, and is running on the latest FunTouch OS 14 that is based on Android 14. Now, this is nowhere a full in-depth review, but if you want me to do an in-depth review on the Vivo X100 or even the Pro, let me know in the comment section below. Alright, let's get into the main event, the gaming performance. So I put the Vivo X100 to the test with 3 heavy-hitting games: Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail and PUBG Mobile. So I cranked up each game to the maximum settings of the highest frame rate possible to really push this phone to its limits. So for Genshin and Honkai Star Rail, it is 60 FPS and man, it's just smooth sailing all around. And this is all done with the settings maxed out. And if you love bright colors and overall smoother animation for the games provided, well, you're in for a treat on the MediaTek Dimensity 9300 chipset. Now, there were literally zero issues, stutters or lag during my testing, and best of all is the loading times. It is pretty much instantaneous from the start, and the only time that I felt that I waited longer is when I was downloading the game itself. Then as for PUBG Mobile, 90 FPS is the maximum frame rate that the game can go, and again no issues all around. Now the experience was fluid and so smooth that even though I told myself that I would only take about 30 minutes each game, I just got so immersed that I easily went over that time, because time really flies when you enjoy this level of smooth gaming experience. Now for those of you who stayed till this portion of the game, there is a surprise.
I'm lied.
But not about the gaming performance of those games.
Yeah, they had us the first half, I'm not gonna lie.
That is all true, but I tested a bunch more games that I found online that says are capable of 120 FPS gaming. So I tried games like CSR2, CSR3, Assassin's Creed Rebellion, Subway Surfer and Wild Rift, and it didn't work. Not that the games did not work, it worked flawlessly, but I did not seem to get the claimed 120 FPS that the games are capable of. And here's where I don't think it's the phone or the chip's fault though. It could just be that the chipset or the phone is so new that the software developers have not yet optimized for higher refresh rate gaming, or probably the frame rate counter I'm using is just bust. It also doesn't help that a lot of games don't actually let the user to choose the frame rate they want in a game, so a number of factors could be played over here. I'm certain that this will definitely crush 120Hz gaming, so we might need to revisit this in a future video, so do subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't done so. Now, if you want a recap of this entire video, head on to our website at www.adamlobo.tv. In case you want to read on the stuff that we mentioned, especially going into detail of the numbers, when I was doing the in-depth testing, links will be down below. So a part that makes or break a gaming experience is not only how smooth the game is, but also how hot the phone gets, and in this case, it barely heats up. Because seriously, there might be some kind of magic at work here, because even during long gaming sessions, the phone only gets a little warm, never so hot that it feels like you're holding a lava brick. And I found that apparently this is due to MediaTek's Hyper Engine adaptive gaming technology that not only makes the phone cooler, which explains why my hand did not get all toasty, but also gives up to 15% boost in power efficiency with popular game titles. Now not only that, because MediaTek also says that it is the world's first mobile platform to achieve console-level global illumination effects with the Extreme 8-core CPU and second generation hardware ray tracing engine flawlessly working together. Now imagine that this processor was inside a gaming focused phone. I won't be surprised that it will be running solidly cool during hard gameplay too. So that wraps up my testing on the MediaTek Dimensity 9300 in the Vivo X100. Now this phone truly earns its title as the reigning gaming king and a top-notch flagship for 2024. Performance? Check. Battery life? Check, especially considering the powerhouse performance packed in this little beast.